Welcome to the latest instalment of Jibber Jabber with Jack. Today, we're joined by the dual premiership winning coach from the Glenorchy Knights Football Club in Hobart, Tasmania, and that's James Sherman. James, thanks very much for your time and welcome.
Hi, Jack. Thanks for having me, mate.
Not a problem at all. Football, I think, is a passion in your blood. It probably started way back in the early days as a kid, maybe some games in the backyard with your brother Tom and your family. And so tell us how it all began, your love for the game and your first memories.
Certainly, that's pretty. You've nailed it, just about. Yeah, in the backyard with my brother Tom and my mum very early, and from there, just the standard old school team at under sixes and under sevens, and yeah, just the love for it was there early, and it's continued until now.
You were captain of some representation teams in Tasmania in your early days as well.
Yeah, I always had some leadership qualities, I think, and obviously that passion for the game as well led me into a couple opportunities to be a captain of some rep sites. Yeah, that was the case.
So let's look back at your start of your journey at Glenorchy Knights Football Club, probably about 15 years ago now. Your brother Tom was playing alongside yourself. Can you take us back to those days?
Yeah, well, I'd played the season before at Melbourne Knights and had made the decision that I was going to travel to the UK and spend some time over there and play semi-professionally over there. And in the off season, I'd returned home to Hobart, and Glenorchy were starting their pre-season, and I wanted to keep in shape, and so I joined in. And from there, it really snowballed into, hey, we just fancy playing the Summer Cup, and then that snowballed into playing the first, I think, 3 games of the 2010 league season. And yeah, really, that was it. So that was my first introduction as a player for Glenorchy Knights. I remember the 3 or 4 years prior to that playing at a club called Hobart Zebras against Glenorchy Knights on a handful of occasions. And I remember those actually very clearly.
James, coaching, I believe, was something that was in your mind well and truly during your playing days.
It certainly was. Look, I can remember in my late teens having some conversations with coaches around tactics and things like that, and the impact of how things could be affected by tactics through a game. And certainly through my mid-20s, I started to really pay attention to how coaches can affect a team and how coaches and what they say can affect players. And by the time I arrived back home from England, that was certainly something that I'd thought of, and that became even more of something that was in the front of my mind in my late 20s. And yeah, I think at 28, I'd now then moved to Knights and was an assistant coach while still playing.
You're a midfielder in your playing days. Can you tell us a little bit about your style and how would you rate yourself?
Yeah, I mean, that's where I played whilst I was here. I spent a bit of time in a handful of positions when I played in England. I spent a bit of time as a defender prior to joining Melbourne Knights. Yeah, look, well, I think, especially from midfield, you've got to have a reasonable understanding of the game. And for me, I think my strengths were I was a good communicator, and I could read the play well. I was hardworking, and I kept it pretty simple. I certainly wasn't anything spectacular. I knew what I was good at, and I just made sure that I tried to show that most weeks.
The early stages of your coaching career, would you be able to transfer your thoughts into the match? Do you think that came about, or that tended to tinker as you went along further down the track?
Yeah, I mean, even now he's still learning. I would say after my first year, so first year of being a head coach in 2019, we had COVID, and the break that COVID provided, I hadn't really seen too much of a change from 2019 to 2020. And in that window that we had off, I did a lot of research and I did a lot of study and came across some things that really helped me take what was up here into here, and then putting it out on the field for the players, or getting players to be able to understand or help players see something or get my message across clearer. So, yeah, look, I certainly can see why good players don't transition into good coaches, but then I can also see how, good players are able to help other players improve, if that makes sense, Jack.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, in the evolution of time, I'm sure you're still keen on coaching down the track. You'll be still learning much more about the game. You'll never stop learning. So it's an evolution for sure down the track. 2021 came along and the club won its first ever, I think, NPL championship under the NPL system in Tasmania. It was, you came to the last day, there was plenty of permutations. They could have went either way. And my goodness me, talk about writing a script. Can you take us through and what happened and your feelings through that day?
Yeah, so look, I think to give you proper context, the week before was just as important. So we were 3 points behind Devonport in the second last game of the season, and we had Devonport at home. We managed to beat them and draw level with them on points. They had a superior goal difference. Going into the last game of the season in 21, we had another home game against Launceston City, and Devonport were away to Kingborough Lions at Lightwood Park. Yeah, and look, so we managed to get a win, and obviously both games were on the same time. So we managed to get a win, or we were leading for the majority of the second half. And the information had come across that down at Lightwood Park it was a draw, and then it just so happened that Kingborough scored a third goal and what ended up to be the winning goal in the last 5 to 10 minutes. So, yeah, we really went from being 3 points behind in the second last game to eventually winning the league by 3 points. So a six-point turnaround in the last two games.
In the last minutes of the season, basically, James, wasn't it?
Yeah, and then that's it. They're the margins. You're talking about a kick in, a couple of minutes, and that was a remarkable day. Yeah, that really was. That was a remarkable last 2 weeks in particular. Yeah, a special day, special time.
I remember maybe the trophy lost its GPS coordinates. It was going in one direction and had to come back to KGB.
Yeah, well, that's right. I mean, it was like the trophy wasn't halfway between either ground. It was all the way down at the other venue. You're talking about 40 minutes away nearly. And, yeah, look, well, the week before when we had Devonport, if they'd got a point, they were champions. We had to win. I remember they turned up to the ground and they had yellow and blue ribbons on the trophy before the game.
Oh.
That had it on the trophy. Yeah, I remember seeing that and thinking, before
it got to KGB.
Yeah. That's it. And that was the week before, because if they'd have got a point, they would have been crowned champions then, and probably presented to them then as well, and rightly so. But yeah, I remember seeing that, thinking, okay, let's have it.
2024, your second premiership, a different scenario altogether. A very dominating season. Making the FFA, the Australia Cup, I should say, round of 32. The Lakaselja Cup, which means a great deal to the club, winning it for the 9th time. And coming down to the last day, the final stretch, a different scenario because everything was centred around that final round match between Devonport and Glenorchy Knights at KGB. So a victory for Devonport sees them being the champions, and a draw and a loss would be enough to secure it for the Knights. So I was down earlier that season to watch the first round 4-1 victory by the Knights over Devonport. You were outstanding that evening, executed everything to a T. And I'm sure your game plan was probably the same going into that final round, but the way it turned out was probably not the way you wanted it to turn out, but in the end you got the result.
Yeah, absolutely. We certainly didn't execute anywhere near as well as what we'd had previously. And I think, we had really exhausted ourselves by that stage. We'd lost a handful of players since that middle part of the season, and, in regards to the players' condition, we had really been working and running on fumes for the last month. So it was a big effort for us that last game. And yeah, I certainly feel we've had better days in regards to our quality, But without the ball, we were ever so good. The concentration and the desire to defend the 18-yard box was exceptional. And, yeah, like you pointed out, we only needed the point, the draw, and that's what we got. And, I think no one can complain that we aren't deserved champions. And what a finish. Unbelievable.
Unbelievable. Also, back in the June long weekend there, the Kings long weekend, the girls as well as winning the Lucky Judge Cup in extra time over the Kingborough Lions must have been a special weekend for the club as well.
Now that was a big day as well. Geez, we were excellent that day. In a big moment. Against a good opposition with a big crowd, lots of pressure. The football we played that day was, I would say, the football we played that day was maybe better than when we beat Devonport when you were down. Obviously, a different environment regarding the opponent, and the venue. Different style of game, perhaps, but geez, we were really good that day. And, we obviously went behind in the first minute of the second half after really dominating, clawed ourselves back into the game straight away and scored maybe 10 or 15 minutes after that, and then conceded a second goal with 7 minutes to go, I think it was. Yeah, and then to get an equalising goal in the 90th minute or the 91st minute, was just remarkable. Like, it was, but that's the playing group. That's been their focus and their desire for most of the season up until that point, at least, had been really strong. And, yeah, then the extra time we managed to just go up another level. We had a handful of lads have to come off, and the young boys that came on, improve the game control for us. And, yeah, we managed to get that third goal, which was the winner, and saw the game out. And, yeah, we're rightly crowned champions, cup winners, the Lucky Judge Cup winners, and, into the Football Australia Cup.
Obviously, you talked about COVID before, which prevented the club from travelling to the mainland for the round of 32. But this year you were able to come up to Christie Park in Sydney and take on Northwestern Sydney Spirit in that cup tie. I'm sure it was an experience that you learned a lot from.
Yeah, certainly that's the case. I think that just the opportunity to travel as a group, to prepare professionally as a group. We had, a light session before we got on the plane. We prepared in regards to, the food and the accommodation ever so well. And, the players looked after themselves and got to enjoy a trip away. And then obviously on game, the game day, the mentality and the professionalism that we tried to represent the club with was just really good. Of course, the result not what we wanted, and disappointing to not score and give the supporters something to really cheer for. But certainly when we came back and we reflected on it, the players were just very happy with how we'd gone about it, and they'd enjoyed, like I said, the opportunity to essentially be professionals for 3 days. And that's the best. We're only part-time, semi-pros. It was just so good. It was a really great opportunity, a great experience.
Can't go by without saying about your coaching staff, James. They've probably been huge for the success of the club and for yourself as a close, starting with your assistant coach.
Yeah, Marcello. So he's been now with me at the club since 2020. And I would put a large amount of the success we've had and certainly the way we've gone about playing down to Marcello. Absolutely. He's good enough to be an NPL coach for sure. His quality and his character are just absolutely brilliant. And having someone like that as your assistant, you're pretty lucky. And as a playing group, we've been lucky. As a club, we've been lucky. And certainly as a head coach, I've been fortunate too. I can't say enough about Chell. We played together as teenagers and known each other a long time. He's just been first rate. Alex Tatnell and Michael Zazinski have been the goalkeeper coaches over the last handful of years. And Tats's work, especially with Angus, has, been really, really good. And, just a great, good staff, good people, and it all came together, and just fortunate.
The celebration is just finished. You're just telling me off there, mate, and they just barely recovered.
Well, I think it's this morning that I recovered, Jack. It's been 3 weeks of non-stop, to be honest. And, culminating with our club function on Friday night last week, the best one yet. Brilliant.
The club itself started with Croatian immigrants playing football on the lawns of the Cadbury chocolate factory there on the river, and they formed in 1957 as Hobart, Croatia, and they listed themselves with the Tasmanian Football Association. And I've got to say, the committee itself, it's a generational committee with, in the early days, the Bardic family, and of course, the Frunjakic family, and of more recent times, the Brkic, Kvarantans, and also the Ketchbum families, who have players and also being on the committee itself. So the community itself really making sure that all the I's are dotted, the T's are crossed, and making sure that everybody's heading for the club.
Yeah, I mean, correct. I mean, I'm not sure if you mentioned the Furgenic family as well. There, yeah,
Yes,
yeah. Yeah, well, they literally are the fabric of the club. Like, literally are the fabric of the club, and to still have such a strong connection there is a wonderful thing. And I think what Glenorchy Knights do very, very well is reflect back and acknowledge its history and the people that have been important and involved in the club's history, and then also too its present. And the people that do a lot of work voluntarily now are acknowledged, and I think they are great traits, and they're traits of a fantastic environment, and Glenorchy Knights are a fantastic environment, a wonderful club.
One of the things you've learned with the DNA of the Croatian culture, all of the best thing that, or maybe the worst thing that might have happened to you.
Oh, geez, how to manage Shilovic or Rakia? I've certainly learned how to manage that. Honestly, and it hit me very early, especially when I arrived in 2017, pre-season games in 2017. We're looking in February when the weather's quite nice, and we've got, a friendly at home, and you finish the game and you're an hour, you're in the changing rooms, and the state of some of the supporters. Oh, I knew, geez, I was in for a good time socially.
James, tell us a little bit about your family, kids and partner.
Yeah, well, so I was my younger brother, Tom. He played at the club and is involved now still at the club. And so, has now a history with the club for quite some time. And we both played as young boys. My mum, she left us, unfortunately, in December last year. May she rest in peace. Was a massive supporter of both Tom and I, and our football journeys, and, and became very much a part of the Glenorchy Knights. The support that we had as a family from the members and the families at the club, especially after Mum's passing, was, something that even now I still think of and reflect and just acknowledge just the wonderful people that they are. My father played, Michael, he played here in Hobart for a number of clubs for, a handful of years, for a long time. He's a 10-pound pom, so he and his parents, my grandparents, arrived in Sydney, I think, in the 1960s. And my lovely wife, Stacey, she and I have been married for a year, just 18 months now. Better get that right, 18 months. And her family, I'm at their house now and we're having dinner, and they come to a lot of the games and very much a part of the fabric of a match day on a Saturday at KG5. Yeah, just that's what my life is about and has been around for now a number of years, and I've been fortunate that it's been so wonderful.
To leave the club at the end of this current season, it's been a great ride, James. Just looking back at the memories and the times you've had, you must look at it with plenty of joy.
Absolutely, and that's the thing too. Like, two cup wins, 2 league wins. We also made, as a player, we made the cup in 2017 as a championship club. In 2021, we missed out on winning the cup by penalties. So, we've certainly had success on the field, and we've played in some wonderful games. Like the cup finals that we played in have been wonderful. To finish and be a part of 2 league wins that have gone down to the wire are exceptionally rare and memorable. And then I think you look at, the Saturdays that you can put some good football on for supporters that want to get away from whatever it is that is happening during the week, or come to KG5, for their friends and enjoyment. And I don't know, just to have teams that have been able to play good football and make people happy has been wonderful. And then the support that you receive from those people when things aren't going great, they're not a club that throw you under the bus, and they're not a club that throw you out when things aren't going great. They really get behind you and support you. And I think that's a big part of why the club is in such a great place now.
Well, James, the short time I've known you, you're a thorough gentleman. Yeah, your respect for the club is ginormous, and the way you get on with the players and the squad, they truly respect you and what you have to offer. Thanks very much for spending some time with me this evening. We wish you, your family, all the very best in your future endeavours, and hopefully you can move your coaching forward. Never say never. I'm sure if the opportunity is to come back to Hobart again, I'm sure you'd probably consider that.
No, thank you very much for your time, mate, and the effort that you put in allowing myself and Glenorchy to get some exposure. And, you're great at what you do. And thank you so much for your time.
Appreciate it, James. All the very best in the future, and thanks very much.
Take care, Jack.
Cheers, mate. Bye.